Grip or drift? Which is fastest? Today we're going to be finding out the answer to one of life's biggest questions. Now I know some of you are rolling your eyes right now. Of course, grip is faster all of the time, right? Well, not quite. I've done some rigorous testing, 3 different drivetrains and types of corners, and this is what I found. Let's start off with your bog standard right angle corner. It requires a short brake to shift the weight of the car forward, give you more grip to turn in and hit the accelerator before the apex. Then you exit as wide as possible to gain as much speed as possible for the following straight. And we're starting off with a bang in the front wheel drive Civic. And no, that's not VTEC kicking in. Unbelievably, it's an entire 100th of a second faster whilst drifting. But why? On this drift run, instead of pedal braking, I ripped the handbrake. This means the car slowed down less, and the front of the car was pointed towards the apex way before grip was. Then all I had to do was stomp on the accelerator to line the car back up and get a fast exit. But the same can't be said for all-wheel drive. By the apex, grip already had a massive lead, and by the straightaway, it was over 4/10ths of a second ahead. Rear-wheel drive was closer, but drift ultimately lost by some 7/100ths of a second. That may not sound like a lot of time, but in a race scenario, that is a lifetime on a corner-by-corner basis. If you lost 7/100ths of a second per corner for an entire race, you'd end up an entire 30 seconds behind. Now we're moving on to my favourite corner in this test, the hairpin. Although this one isn't your typical hairpin, it requires more of a double apex than a hug the inside or late apex approach, either of which would result in you scrubbing off too much speed. In the front wheel drive car, I chuck it in as hard as I possibly can, once again trying to get a straighter shot out of the turn. But the girth of the corner made this approach poor, and grip gets a much faster drive out of the turn, rendering drifting useless. Once again, rear wheel drive was closer, but grip was once again victorious. But here's the interesting part. In my Impreza, drifting had a massive lead even by the halfway point. This is because I knew I could just throw the car into the turn sideways, and the all-wheel drive system would dig me out of the corner. This is something that is only possible with 4 driven wheels. If attempted with 2, it would result in a massive hemorrhage of precious time. However, once launched out of the corner, grip began to catch up and pretty quickly, but overall, drifting was a huge 0.12 seconds faster. However, let me warn you, despite drifting obviously being the best approach for this particular turn in this particular car, you probably shouldn't do it. I mean, sure, if you're hot lapping and are striving for a single fast lap, go bonkers. But over an entire race, if you drift this corner every lap, it's going to overheat and wear your tyres, making you slower over the entire stint. Not to mention, drifting is dangerous with other cars on the track, especially if they're not expecting it. Now I know what you're thinking. What about a proper hairpin? A closed hairpin in which you practically have to stop the car to enter? You know, the ones that are actually recommended to be drifted. Surprisingly, front and rear wheel drive were slower whilst drifting. Now of course, this could be down to my driving, but honestly, after an entire hour of taking the 3 same corners in the same 3 cars, I just wanted to get it over and done with. I have no doubt you could drift this turn faster, but then again you could also grip it faster. These tests have almost infinite variables at play. Road temps, tyre temps, fuel levels and driver boredom, just to name a few. All of these would make minute changes to the pace of the car on a corner by corner basis, and they're all pretty much out of my control. However, although these tests may be inaccurate, we can see some obvious trends, such as all-wheel drive being a heck of a lot faster whilst drifting these tighter turns, for reasons we've already discussed. It was 2/3 of a second faster on this one. However, on faster turns such as the square and this extremely long one, front wheel drive drifting actually comes out on top. I suspect this is because ripping the handbrake helps rotate the car and gets it turned into the corner sooner, then you simply have to accelerate and exit the turn. In rear wheel drive however, drifting has been slower in every single test. It's strange. because it's the de facto layout for drifting. Perhaps it's the easiest to drift, and perhaps it looks the best for any lucky spectators. However, if you want to go fast, you shouldn't drift rear wheel drive. You should drift front wheel drive on fast corners and all wheel drive on slow corners. Hope this helps.